Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Greenlink Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of water heating is here. Today, we are joined by TJ with Richmond. TJ, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited. I know that Greenlink has been really excited about our relationship that we've been building with you guys. You guys are actually supporting us and working with us at the home show that's coming up here in Rockford.
Looking forward to that.
Coming up in about a week and a half. That's going to be the weekend of the 22nd and 23rd here in Rockford at the Indoor Sports Center on East Riverside. And we're actually going to be able to give away a new heat pump water heater, courtesy of Richmond. And yeah, we're very excited about that. So, TJ, let's dive in and talk a little bit about maybe the background of Richmond, what your company is focusing on, and kind of where you guys are moving towards.
Sure. Richmond is one of the Rheem family of brands. Rheem having the largest market share of the water heater companies. We've been around since the 1990s as a brand. And our biggest position is retail. You're not going to find us in a lot of big wholesalers or anything like that. But we are the water heater that you can go into the store and pick up and take back to your contractor.
And where would somebody go to find those water heaters? They're looking for the Richmond brand air source heat pump. Where that carried locally here in town?
Menards will have stock of those at all times. So either the location in Cherry Valley.
Yep, you got Cherry Valley, Manchesney Park here.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, that's great. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about why is air source heat pumps, water heaters, why are they the future in water heating?
One word: efficiency.
There it is.
So a standard electric water heater ends up as about a 1-to-1 on dollar for heat. So for every dollar you spend on heat, for every dollar you spend, you get $1 worth of heat.
Right.
An air source heat pump water heater, for every dollar you spend, you get about $2.80 back in your pocket.
Wow.
About a savings of $31 a month over any traditional style water heater. I think that's what I paid for my Disney Plus and my Hulu last month.
There you go.
So it's some savings on that. And also because frankly, it's just going to be law. May 5th, 2029, water heater manufacturers will not be able to make a electric tank water heater above 34.9 gallons, so 40, 50 with dual elements, that type of water heater is going away, and they're going to be strictly the heat pump style water heaters.
Wow. And that's all about the efficiency. So basically what I'm hearing you say is it's 3 times the efficiency of a standard resistance heating style water heater. Is that
least,
right?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And the other thing that comes to my mind too is like the amperage and the service and how that relates to what that home's electrical service currently is. If you have a 100 amp service, you're trying to go and electrify the home and add more electrical appliances, and you have a resistance heat water heater, you're going to be pulling huge amps out of that home, where with a water heater, air source heat pump water heater, that's going to reduce the load on that home. Is that correct to say?
That is correct. And we even have options for that. So our standard model is going to be a 30 amp. And that's across the sizes, 40, 50, 65, and 80. We also have 15 amp models in the 40 and 50.
Okay.
And then we have plug-in with a hydro boost at 40 and 50 as well.
Got it. And so, that, and where some of those amperages and those different sizing comes into play is because there is a heat element for a little bit more of a rapid heat function. Is that correct?
Correct. There are 2 4,500 watt elements in the water heater.
Yep.
And that gives you, say something does happen to the compressor, you've still got hot water. Say something happens to the elements, you've got the compressor for hot water. So it's a backup and it's a balance.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, there are some times where maybe in our climate zone especially, you may not have all the heat you need if you have this in the garage or something like that. So you have the elements in there for backup. So you always have that 110, 120 degree water, no matter the scenario in which you've installed.
Sure. And I think about heat pumps. Heat pumps, I kind of describe maybe a little more like highway miles to a car. It's the lower RPMs. You're just kind of cruising. You're getting that run time, slow, continuous heating is happening there. But again, with the resistance heat, you get a little more of that rapid fire supplemental. Can those two elements work in tandem? Would you ever have the heat pump running and the resistance heat?
That's correct. That's why you would call it a hybrid. Actually.
Got it. There it is.
The hybrid heat pump, and the hybrid comes from the heat pump working simultaneously with the elements in the water heater.
Okay.
Ideally, though, you would want to use just the heat pump as much as possible to save as much money.
Of course.
Now, obviously, the elements are going to be there to help out.
Yeah.
But if it can be installed in a position in the home, you're even going to have more savings if you can draw air from the home.
Sure. So if you're in like a conditioned space, we'll say a basement, for example, you're not going to have any issues ever with that heat pump being able to pull heat out of the air and continue to heat that water up. You're not going to need that resistance heat in that case. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
Yeah. And there's something before we started the episode that you were sharing with me that I'd love to dig into because that was really intriguing for me as a building science guy, which is the function of a heat pump. And you're talking about the compressor and the dehumidification. Can you educate us and share us a little information about that?
Yes. So when any heat pump that you have, you're drawing heat from the air. I mean, it's a traditional air conditioner just running in reverse. So you're taking heat out of the air, and instead of exhausting it, we're compressing it in the coil around the tank, and that's where it's heating from. Well, we need to bring in air for that heat. So we do have on our heat pumps, we have plenum ready intake and air vent. So say you're in that basement and the basement gets cool, basement gets humid.
Yeah, a little damp and musty.
Yeah. If you're pulling air constantly into that water heater, you're dehumidifying your basement with your water heater.
That is amazing.
Now, say we have a plenum ready duct. Now, say you've run some duct up to your attic. Well, now in the summertime, that 105, 110 degree attic, you're cooling it down because you're taking heat out of that air and putting it into your water heater. And you're also helping your water heater operate at its most efficient because it's getting a constant stream of warm air.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
So, and kind of contrasting that to a traditional gas-operated water heater where you have that flue vent that's in the basement, it's super hot to touch, and you're putting off that warm air. This is actually kind of dual duty, maybe not by design, but it's kind of the icing on the cake, so to speak, where you get this dehumidification feature. And heat pump water heaters are actually, was something that I learned as we were installing these, you're actually getting that what feels exactly like air conditioning blowing out of the exhaust side of this instead of a hot pipe that somebody can burn their hands on.
Yeah, we are taking heat from the air, and the rest of the air has to go somewhere.
That's right.
So we do have the vent off of the side, but actually, I would when I'm telling people about this feature, I use my house a lot as an example. I have an addition that was added to the home that's not connected to the central air. So I actually applied for a testimonial, one of these, and my plan is to put it in my house and then duct it to that back room. So in the summertime, when my water is heating, I'm also cooling a space in my house.
That is amazing.
Is that the primary function of a water heater? No. Great side benefit and financially beneficial.
Absolutely.
As well.
What would you do then in the wintertime in that case? I'm just curious, if you're pumping that conditioned air into that room, that addition that you talk about, is there a way that you would toggle that, or do you adjust that in the wintertime because you don't want that cold air going into that room when you're in the heating season? Or is this like a 3 seasons room where you don't care what's going in there in the wintertime?
It could. You could adjust. I would, in that case, really just simply take that duct off.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
So that it's not traveling through into that room.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of going back into the space where the water heater lives. Yes, you are cooling the air down a little bit, but in a home environment, you're never cooling it down low enough where it's not going to have enough heat to
Small
operate.
amounts of BTUs.
Right. Exactly.
There.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know our engineering customers and some of the technical folks, their wheels are spinning here thinking about different ways that you can recapture that energy and send that through the home, just like what you're talking about. And again, that's very fascinating to me. So, as we go into this, I also hear a lot about tankless water heaters as well. What are some of the primary differences between, storage heat pump water heater, tankless water heater? What are the pros and cons as you see them?
The pros of the biggest pro for me for the on-demand style is that the on-demand of it. You're not heating water when nobody's home. You're not heating water when you don't need it. When you have a call for hot water, that's when you get it. The second benefit is it does get a 40 or 50 gallon tank out of your utility room, mechanical room, basement,
if you get
wherever
tight quarters, that's a good application.
Exactly. And we're seeing the proliferation now of multifamily homes. It seems like every corner's got some sort of apartment building going up on it. Now imagine I can just have a 3x1 box on the wall that's going to do the water heating rather than having to carve out a 3x3 or a 4x4 foot space that at that point is premium real estate in those apartments. So.
Sure. Are you able to have a tankless heat pump water heater?
Not as yet.
Okay.
Not to speak out of school, I assume it'll happen in the future.
Sure.
there are heat pump style water heating will continue to expand, will continue to grow.
Yeah.
I can't say for certain what specifically the future holds, but all forms of water heating will eventually have a heat pump aspect to it. I would say that all forms of heating at some point will have a heat pump aspect.
I agree with that. Yeah, we're seeing it more and more on the HVAC side as well. Cold climate heat pumps are becoming more and more commonplace. Years ago, you would expect to see that maybe down south, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, maybe even. But you wouldn't bring that up into the northern climates because those units are sitting outside and there's not a lot of heat to pull from the air when it's 10 degrees. But now with these cold weather heat pumps, you can actually, they're using these up in Michigan, Canada even, and they're totally heating their homes without natural gas in these cases, which again is very, very impressive. So yeah, to your point, as that technology evolves, maybe you're able to put in more BTUs at a quicker pace. But so for right now, though, you have a storage option. And if you're looking at a storage water heater, you got a big tank in your basement, you should be looking at a heat pump water heater. That's just a no-brainer.
Correct. Because that is the unit with which you're going to have the most financial benefit.
Right.
Upfront and beyond.
Yeah, long-term operating costs. And then if you don't have the space, maybe you got a tight closet and you've got a big tank currently in there that's taking up a lot of space, your contractor might be able to suggest to you, hey, maybe you go with a tankless to reclaim some of the space here. But again, in a lot of cases, do you guys see that it makes sense to go from gas to gas? So you got a gas water heater that's on its last leg. Is it like a homeowner in a lot of cases are going to say, well, this is what I have. Let me just get a new one of these gas units. Is there any reason that they should go that route versus exploring the heat pump option?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of too many other than I would say if you have a larger home, larger family, consider your lifestyle. So if you have more than one person taking a shower or consuming large amounts of water at a time consistently throughout the day, a on-demand, a tankless option, that is going to be the absolute best for you, hands down. Really, outside of that scenario, I believe that a heat pump water heater is always going to be the best and most efficient.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say is if you're going to go the storage route, you're going air source heat pump. If you're going to go on demand, in that case, you might look at gas or electric based on your situation.
Tankless gas. Yes.
Tankless gas, right.
I don't, and I might be speaking out of turn a little bit here. I'm not a big fan of the electric on-demand water heaters for our climate region. Yeah. Just because I think at this point they have a large electrical draw.
That's right.
And there's better options.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have their market here, but there are for full family homes there are better, more efficient and cheaper options.
Yeah, maybe for somebody, maybe they're on propane or something like that. Obviously, although there are propane options, of course. In the water heater world, but maybe they're trying, for whatever reason, they can't get propane. They have no natural gas service. Sure, in that case, maybe an electric on demand might make sense. But then again, you're going, why not use the electric air source heat pump storage option? And you're going to have a significantly less draw. We installed years ago, I remember installing a electric on demand for a customer. And I want to say it was like an 80 amp circuit that was needed. Does that sound right?
For a full family, for a family of five, a growing family of five, you need 400 amp service to do tankless electric water heating in our climate zone, which
is not common. A standard home in our area here in the Midwest is going to be 200 amps at most, right? And some of the older homes are even going to be 100 amp services. Right. In that case, it's not even an option. Don't even go that route.
And especially if you're talking townhouse, you're talking apartment. A lot of those really only have the 100 amp service that you're talking about.
That's right.
Yeah. The 30 amp and the 15 amp. And also the 120 plug-in being available for the air source heat pump that's been huge for us.
Yeah. So actually, can you dig into that a little bit? You talk about the 120 amp plug-in. Is that in a case where you're not going with resistance heat elements in there? You're strictly heat pump?
Correct.
So that wouldn't be a hybrid at that point.
Right. It would just be an air source heat pump.
Yeah.
That would be for, weirdly enough, we see a lot of those for fishing cabins up north.
Okay.
Where they might only have 50 amp service.
Yeah.
Something like that. Or down south where you're in kind of a warmer climate region. Full scale house up here, I would still recommend probably the 30 amp. But a family of two who's now downsized to a smaller home or less water usage, that plug-in is now even more efficient than what you're going to get from the 30 or 15 amp.
Sure.
So.
That's amazing. So you can just have a 110 or 120 outlet and plug that in. If you don't have the resistance heat side, of course, which is going to affect maybe some redundancies if the heat pump went down, or maybe, like you said, it was out in the garage for some reason. Doesn't seem like a great idea to me in our climate zone, but maybe somebody's got that configuration. But really those higher amperage units are only when you have that resistance heat. So 50 amp service, say, hey, I'm going to live without the resistance heat. I'm going straight into my 120 outlet here, and I'm going to have hot water.
Yeah, that would be the best way to go. And there's no change in any sort of the amperage heat pumps that you buy that would affect any sort of tax credit or benefit coming back to you from it. So 30, 15, and the 120 volt all line up for the federal tax credit that's available now for installing a heat pump water heater.
And what is that tax credit amount?
That tax credit amount is 1/3 of the entire installation. So cost of unit, cost of labor. If the contractor has to rent the dolly to get it down the stairs, they're going to get a third off. Up to $2,000.
Up to $2,000. And that's going to cover, you're not going to really see in a lot of cases where you're going beyond that amount. So basically, let's say $6,000 and below, you can recoup 30% of the cost of that unit. We're using 33%, but 30% for those that are out there with their calculators right now. Okay. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I was definitely wanting to hit on those incentives. I think that's great. Can you give us a little bit of information, maybe just talk about some of the specifications? I know you guys got a new model that's coming out here in 2025. You guys are in the process, or that's actually released?
Already out, yeah.
Already out.
Available at Menards. The two biggest changes this half generation to our last generation, we now have top taps for the water. So we have water connections through the side and bottom, but now also through the top, which gets us in line with the rest of the market and also makes installation a lot easier because you don't have to pipe down to the side, pipe down to the bottom.
Sure.
The plenum ready duct that I mentioned before is the other big change. The lack of needing a separate adapter kit. So when you go in and you can just buy the water heater and take it home and you don't need anything else, it's a big benefit for the customer. Those are the two big changes from previous models. We were the only manufacturer for a while that had side and bottom water connections. Now we have added the top water connections to make installation easier for everyone. And
are those taps still located on the sides? Are there both options with that unit, or is it solely on the top?
We still have the side and we still have the bottom.
Okay.
But we now added top. So if you use the side and the bottom, you wouldn't use the top. If you use the top, you wouldn't use side and bottom.
So the installers are going to love that. So they've got options now. It's going to really help make that a quicker, easier, more efficient install depending on the configuration of the customer's current unit.
Correct. No matter what brand they're replacing, they will be able to repipe with not a lot of issue.
Sure. I want to bounce back to the tankless water heaters for a second here. How does a tankless water heater work, right? So we see these boxes on the wall. I'm sure most people have seen, kind of that footprint of a tankless water heater. How is that working in there to produce that hot water so quickly and send that out the door, to the shower, the fixture, kitchen, wherever you're using that hot water at?
I think the closest product that somebody could make the comparison to is a furnace. Okay. So if you think about your furnace, when you turn it on, you have 4 or 5 blowers going into the chamber. Tankless water heater is the same, except instead of heating air, we're heating an exchanger. Copper heat exchanger or steel heat exchanger, depending on the model you buy. And that's where the heat for the water is coming from. So as soon as you crack a tap in the house for hot water, that burner fires up, modulates down to the need, and then that heats the water as it goes through. So each unit has a primary and a secondary heat exchanger that the water travels through. I think total time is like 25 seconds or something like that for the water to get from its incoming temperature of 50 or 60 degrees to 110, 120.
Wow. And that modulation, I think I'm always intrigued by modulation, especially on the HVAC side, but hearing that we have modulating technology in water heaters, that's a real push towards energy efficiency there. Where back in the day, a lot of gas-fired appliances, it's just on or it's off. What does that modulation mean for a homeowner?
That they're not using too much gas for their need. So if they turn on their bathroom sink in the middle of the night, their burner isn't turning on to, okay, I'm going to operate 2 showers at once. Sure. So it's going to turn on, it's going to recognize a flow rate, and it's going to turn down to meet the need. Yeah. Rather than I think it's a 4-to-1 turn down ratio.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that one, but I believe it's 4-to-1.
What does that mean when you say 4-to-1 turn down ratio?
That means it's got basically if it was a dial, it would have 4 clicks. So
Got
like
it.
a high, medium, high, low, low.
Got
So
it. Okay.
in there.
Okay. That makes sense. How about the technology side? What kind of technology are in these units now? I know that there's an app feature, and with that app, what does that mean to a homeowner? Why would they care about that? What functionality does that give to them?
They have full control over their water heater, and both our EcoNet for the heat pump water heaters and our EcoNet for the tankless are integrated with most home smart systems. So with your Alexa, with your Google, however it works out.
Sure.
The benefit is you have full control over your water heating, and you have full monitor over your water heating.
Okay.
Really, you're only going to think about your water heater when there's a problem with it.
Right.
So with the EcoNet, you now know as soon as there's a problem with it. And both the tankless and the heat pump are available with leak guard technology.
Okay.
So you would have your app, and you would immediately know that you had a leak on either your tankless or your heat pump. And the good thing for a company like Greenlink or for any contractor is that with the approval of the homeowner, you could put your company information into the EcoNet for basically one button service.
Wow.
So say I'm at work.
Yeah.
Oh no, my water heater's leaking. One button, and now I've let Greenlink know, hey, 123 Main Street.
Yep.
We got to go and fix this leak.
Contractors getting dispatched right away. There's no lag time.
Exactly.
Everybody knows what's going on.
Exactly.
That's hugely valuable. I'm sure, we've all heard some of the horror stories, when a water heater's been installed for far too long and the bottom's starting to rust out because the basement has high humidity, which, by the way, wouldn't necessarily be the case if you had a heat pump water heater because you're dehumidifying.
We're helping that out.
But the bottom of that water heater starts to rust out because it's 20 years old, way beyond its life expectancy. And that basement starts to flood. And if you don't have this technology built into that unit, you're not going to know until you go downstairs and you're ankle deep in water.
Correct. That's a $4,000 on average insurance claim.
Yeah.
And it's a little red wicking cable that you never even notice. Yeah. And if an ounce of moisture is detected around the bottom of the unit, it turns off. And not only does it turn off, but it vacuum seals. So you don't get that. Even the water that was in that tank, you don't get out on the floor.
Wow.
Water doesn't keep running.
Yeah.
You don't lose the money on the water. You don't lose the money on the flood. You don't lose possessions.
Yeah.
And it shuts off.
Hugely valuable. Hugely valuable. So what some of these other settings that you talk about, got the leak guard, but what are some of the other settings? I know maybe like if you're going on vacation or maybe you need higher recovery time, are there some other modes that you can adjust, and what would that look like for a homeowner?
There is a 2 to 28 day vacation mode that can be set. It is takes the water down to 60 degrees for 13 days. For 13 days, and then if he goes past 13 days, it will heat up the tank, and then it will drop it back down to 60, just kind of a safety precaution.
Sure.
You have, in terms of the mode, the biggest question that I get asked is the recovery rate versus a standard tank. Mm-hmm. A gas water heater has fire in it. The electric water heaters have the elements in it. People get worried about how this one's going to keep up. Well, we have now max mode on ours. Okay. Which is full electric and full heat pump. So
throwing everything at it all at once.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're hosting a party in the summertime. You've got everybody over at the house.
Sure.
This water heater will keep up. Yeah. And you could set that from the app. You could set it at the water heater itself. So vacation mode, max mode, you could run it in just heat pump. You can run it in just electric mode.
Okay. So with that max mode and that recovery time, if you throw a heat pump water heater, say 30 amp, 15 amp, into that max mode as compared to a gas water heater, is the recovery the same? Is one a little faster, a little slower? What does that look like when you're in max mode?
Max mode is going to have a faster recovery rate than really any standard type.
Sure.
Just because you're getting two heat sources working together.
That would make sense to me. Yeah.
Now, is it something you're going to notice? Probably not.
Sure.
But you're not going to have a problem with it. You're not going to notice it good. You're not going to notice it bad either.
Right.
So, and that's for water heating for me. That's kind of where I want it.
That's the sweet spot when you're not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Then it's doing its job.
Right.
Yeah. That's the way it is. Yeah. For a homeowner, even myself in my house, water heater's working great. I don't even know it's there. If I have a problem, then I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I'm starting to dig into it, and then I'm concerned about the water heater. Which I've not installed a heat pump water heater in my house yet. I actually put a gas on demand in probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So a few years down the road here, and the time is right, that's definitely going to be my next move, is going to be a heat pump water heater, because I'm very excited about that technology, and I don't have any of the bells or whistles. I don't have the leak guard or any of the different settings or configurations. So I look forward to making that switch when the time is right and taking advantage of that $2,000 tax credit as well.
I would encourage you, if you're going to do that, do it before the end of 2028.
Okay.
That is when, now whether it gets extended or anything, but that is the end of that tax credit as it stands right now. So
got it.
If you got something planned for the next couple of years, just get it done before that.
By the end of 2028.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Definitely going to mark that in the calendar. I don't want to miss out on that. Great. I think one of my last questions here, I just want to talk a little bit about warranties. What are the warranties on the different equipment that you guys sell? What would a homeowner be expecting on the warranty side?
So the heat pump style water heaters have a 5-year warranty on parts, on the serviceable parts, but it has a 10-year warranty on the compressor. And I want to point out the compressor warranty because of the ease of a compressor warranty. We're not going to ask a contractor to crack open that shell, evacuate any refrigerant, mess around with anything like that. Yep. If something goes with a compressor, they're going to take the entire unit back to their point of purchase, and they're going to get a new one.
Wow.
Now that's a prorated warranty.
Sure.
But with the multiple trades working on these units, whether it be a HVAC technician, whether it be a plumber, whether it be a general contractor, not everybody is AC fluid, air conditioning fluid. Yep. So why not make it easier for the plumber? Why not? We're not making them give away service work. We're not making a contractor have to sub or give away service work.
It's a big deal. I know, as you know, for contractors, obviously Greenlink being a contractor, I think a lot about the warranty side when we're working, whether it be on a solar project, some of our weatherization, our HVAC, our water heaters. That's a big deal to us, because we extend this warranty coverage to our customer. They made this selection based on our recommendations in a lot of cases, and we're saying, hey, here's the warranty and what you can expect. And if something goes bad and that manufacturer is not very eager or interested to try to help out and support and work with you on that, in a lot of cases now the contractor has a decision, hey, we're going to eat this and we're going to make it right with the customer, or we're not, and the customer is going to be upset with us. And so somebody is not happy in that case. So as for a manufacturer to say, hey, we're going to stand behind it. We're not going to make you mess with a bunch of little parts and pieces and trying to figure this out when it's reasonable, of course. Like you said, on that compressor, because that could get pretty heavy duty, you know, evacuating and pulling out refrigerant. And just say, hey, we're going to stand behind it. We'll prorate it, which is very fair, and we're going to get you a new unit and get that put in. I think that speaks volumes about Richmond and the confidence you guys have behind your products.
If I might, I'd like to kind of prop up the company a little bit too, is that we do have the best in warranty. If you are buying out of Menards, because Menards offers a 2-year labor warranty.
Okay.
So any Richmond bought out of Menards, with the exception of the bottom of the barrel models, come with that 2-year labor warranty as well. So for increased peace of mind, and that is across the board on product. Yeah. The Tankless is in that same category with the warranty. The 2 heat exchangers in our Tankless units, in our new Tankless units, have a 15-year warranty. With that same, if anything happens with the heat exchanger, we're going to replace the entire unit. And that same 5-year parts warranty. Yeah. And that sets us apart from all of our Tankless competition, because nobody else offers that. We are the only manufacturer that is proactive about a heat exchanger warranty. Because in a heat exchanger, if you think about it, where's that water going to go? Straight to the bottom of the unit. Where's the control panel? Right at the bottom of the unit.
You've got problems in a number of different areas at that point.
We expect further complications from that. Right. So let's nip it in the bud, take care of the whole thing at the beginning. If that heat exchanger goes, we got you taken care of.
Yeah. Again, I have a lot of respect for that approach, knowing that, hey, there's going to be other areas of issue. Let's just take care of this. Let's make it right for the customer. Let's make sure they got a good, functional, operational, long-term unit in place, and everybody's happy. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So again, just kind of recapping a little bit of this, we've got the technology piece that's built into these units. We've got the energy efficiency piece where we're saying, hey, up to 3 times, maybe in some cases a little more energy efficient than a standard electric resistance water heater. You've got incredible warranties working with Richmond, purchasing these units from Menards, like TJ mentioned. And, just it's a changing, we call it the energy revolution. And we are at the early stages of this. And I mean, we're well into it. There's no doubt about it. And it's just going to continue to increase and become more standard practice. Like you said, with the 2029 deadline, is that right? It was 2029 where you start to make that full shift. It's going to happen nationwide. Every manufacturer, you will not have large scale resistance heat storage units after that point.
Already written into law.
Already set in place. Well, that's awesome. Well, TJ, thanks again for joining. Real quick on the home show, are you planning on being at the home show?
I will be at the home show. So
awesome.
please come out and say hi.
Yeah, we look forward to it. For all our Rockfordians that are listening here and in the surrounding area, we hope to see you at the home show again. That's going to be at SportsCore 2 in Loves Park, and the dates are going to be February 21st through the 23rd. We hope to see you there, and thanks for watching.